Next game I'm gonna try to not die level 2.
I mean, you don't have to, but that would
Are you
be
ready,
nice.
CC?
3 seconds, I can't TP. He flashed at least.
To dodge away from this, Luon goes in with the Magnet Storm and upset is left to the wolves. SK find 3.
No.
Ding ding.
Boom! Kill them! DPM! Kill Canna!
They are not playing the game. Like.
I'm not think they're gonna go.
Welcome back to the LEC. The series score now tied up 1-1 between SK and KC. And game 2 felt incredibly different. Now, we just saw some highlights, some incredibly well-edited highlights, I have to say. A bit BM from our production team on that particular. I'm going to try not to die level 2 into death at level 2.
He was 3, so he made it.
It was 3. He didn't lie.
He did not lie that he was level 3.
That's one more level. Can we get 2-4? But I think the first thing to talk about here is just, look, overall, this was a much more dominant game from SK across the board.
It's been very different compared to the entire day, I feel like. SK, a team where throughout this playoffs, I feel like have had shakier early games. So this really stands out. I think the game state they had at 15 minutes was absolutely crazy. Double dragons and 6 grubs is something that does not happen very often. And you had a relevant solo zoning off the grub cross map. I think that was fantastic.
Yeah, and I think this was the quintessential SK game that we saw from them in the better part of the splits, where Nisqy has winning early game, pretty much winning lanes everywhere, and they're all just so... When they get all of these tools to maneuver to the early game, they do it so seamlessly. Everyone was just so in harmony into providing each other winning, transferring pressure around the map so that everyone has a lot easier game state.
Then we started talking about this series. We said part of the reason that there was some doubt around SK was that their early game had been a bit questionable in the last few games. But here in game 2, obviously back to form, one of the things that did help them find so many wins in the regular season. And I really have to say that bot lane just continues to be worth singing praises. Now, I'm not going to show you any support statistics because the numbers never look that good, but luckily for us, there's another half of that bot lane, and it's AD, and the numbers always look good. Rahel, game 1, game 2, winning. Doesn't matter what matchup he's in, it feels like this guy is always performing.
He was on fire, and that's why he was my best ADC of the regular season, because he came into the league as an unknown, him and Luon, and they've just been popping off consistently. Their first series in the playoffs was a little bit sleeper, but right now, even in the game 1 loss, they have been doing amazing. They've been holding SK in the game, providing leads with their picks. They've been winning 2v2 pretty much both games today. They got killed 2v2 in game 1 now. Well, the friends were there to get a dive off, but they have been a huge pressure point for SK today.
Yeah, and I think it's so different. Again, going back to the rest of playoffs, where I remember a Xayah game for Rahel where I was just counting the autos who were doing team fights, and for some reason he just was not shining. And I think this has been a trend today where I feel like, especially in this last game, individually it's been really important that they step up, because it also applies to not only Rahel but Nisqy, in my opinion. I think he has had an absolute screamer of a playoffs. I don't know what he's been doing, but now back on the way in the Talia matchup, I think that's been fantastic. He actually gets to do his thing where he roams down and helps out bot lane.
As a non-Brit, Screamer is bad.
Screamer's really bad. Screamer means you're running it down.
Okay, and now it's good. Yes, we're on the same page here. I'm just clarifying. As an American, you got to fill me in every once in a while.
So he's had a Screamer in playoffs before this.
Yeah,
but
so
now,
bad before.
No longer a Screamer. Doing really well.
I'm learning something every day.
There you go.
Gentlemen. I've also learned that Isma on Sejuani, as boring of a champion as Sejuani is, can be highly impactful. These first 2 replays especially, right? Bot lane is one half of it. The other half, I think, what Isma was doing in this early game.
Well, this is the typical Isma champion, because we saw him even earlier in the split. It was his champion of choice, and I think he was playing Sejuani before other people were. People were still trying to see if this AP jungler meta is what it is. But right now, he has been doing pretty much everything that SK needs him to do, because his pathing was really good, path to the winning bot. Renekton is good and independent by himself. And right now, he finds a good timer where there's pretty much nothing on the map. The grabs have been secured, the Drake has been secured, and right now, he has a free play to get the Renekton and pretty ahead.
And this was about where, in the game, I realized, wait a second, what are they doing putting Canna on Ornn? Right, I know on the desk you guys were like, yeah, this is great, it works thematically. You can throw the Ornn ult over the Vial to, you have that long-range dive composition with a lot of engage. But you have Canna on your team, and I think you said, Jayce's best champion. He's such a good carry player. What are we doing? They had so much success with stuff like Camille as well.
Well, for me, in like a smaller scale, it doesn't make sense that he's on Ornn, right? But the problem, I think, which was the bigger problem in this game, was the fact that they didn't really seem to have winning lanes, because going into game 2, we thought on the desk that they are having tools to pretty much get ahead towards the mid game. but from level 1, they had 3 losing lanes. Jungle is kind of whatever. Sejuani outmaneuvered, got the counter gank to react to what Vi was doing, and that's where the bigger problem is, because even if we had Canna on a champion that is gonna draw a lot more pressure, still in the grand scheme of things, you just have too many losing lanes.
Actually, now looking back in hindsight, 3 losing lanes plus a Vi who wants to farm to 6 and can be attacked early, that's just a recipe for disaster, isn't it? That's not great at all.
I mean, you're set up to fall behind in the early game, you fall behind in the early game, and SK reminding us, right, this is a team that is going to punish those mistakes, that has players of high enough caliber to shut that down. KC, of course, because they won the first game, now have the luxury of side selection in the final game of the series. They're going back to blue side, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see them, with the privileges the blue side bring, go back to potentially something like the Azir. Something has to make it through, right? They will at least get the Ezreal if we see the exact same bans from SK on red side. Who are you favoring in this final matchup? We've only got about 30 seconds left, so got to be quick predictions. You've seen 2 games. One's very dominant from SK, one a bit close for KC. Where are you working out here on the final one?
Even though KC chose blue side, even when they won in the first game, SK was in dominant control for the whole game. They just lost one unlucky fight where they got outplayed, and then they pretty much ended the game because the dead timers were so long. So even though K-Corp has blue side selection, I still favor SK with their individual star power.
Yeah, I initially had a KC 2-0 prediction. I'm not going to be a flip-flop Andy. I will say, though, SK has been playing better. However, to play devil's advocate, I think that last draft was a one-off. I don't think it's very often that you draft 3 losing lanes and a losing jungle. I think that's very rare, so going into this next draft, I expected to do better.
All right, KC 2-1, SK 2-1, we got predictions on both sides. You might not be a flip-flop Andy, but we have a casting Andy standing by alongside Medic and Dagda. We'll let him take it away.
Thank you, Drakos.
Caster Andy.
We are standing by.
You've just come joining after an intense argument.
So Vladi told me it can't be work if you're having fun.
And that you're not allowed to be tired because it's not a valid
Apparently I'm not allowed to be tired. I went to a Taylor Swift concert for 7 hours, Vedius.
And you should have loved that.
I did love it, but it's exhausting.
Anyway.
Unlike this series, which is only rejuvenating.
I don't think that's true.
Maybe not for you. It's not worth, Vedi. I'm having fun.
I'm looking forward to our final game of the day, KC versus SK. As with all long series, the energy is getting a little loopy. But nah, taken away from KC. The Rumble also taken away on the side of SK. Let's see what the priorities will be as we move into this third game. We know that Sejuani has proven to be valuable. Thinking about things like the Ezreal being a very high priority is that something that KC want to lock in for themselves very early on in the draft? Along with, I mean, again, AP junglers fallen to the wayside. AD carries mids. Last game, we got to see a few control mages, which, you know, a bit of a change of pace, which Nisqy had a great game on.
You know what I'd love to see here? Santander, Kit Kat, Kia, Brand. I think Brand would be great. We haven't seen him all series. And I think it's a great pick.
Day.
Yeah, I know, he's a great pick. He's so powerful, especially against compositions that try and engage
I was baffled why you were going with that, but that was quite impressive.
But I think it is, like, he's so incredibly strong, but it just feels like, again, there we go, Sejuani taken. It feels like teams are just slow to adapt, but it does mean you have to take on a very different identity for your team that is difficult to adapt to. When you've been playing with engaged junglers for such a long period of time, then lending that to someone else on the team to try and step up is going to be very difficult.
I think. So they banned the Azir, assuming that Ezreal would be prioritized, and now I genuinely think they're thinking about Nidalee again.
It's banned, buddy.
Oh, never mind. I thought
they
I was
could
really
be thinking about it,
but they're probably not anymore. Renekton, Sejuani going to be denied away from Canna and Closer. You imagine that the Ezreal is going to be locked in here for SK. Of course, their MF from game 1 was still a great pick, and maybe they considered the Azir to be a greater problem, so maybe they don't want to prioritize. Instead, they want to make sure they get a solid jungle matchup. And the Maokai is going to be locked in for Isma.
Because I think with the Maokai taken, you still open yourself up to going for an AD mid laner if you want. But also, I wouldn't mind seeing the Zeri locked in here for SK's comp, where again, you can kind of go, hey, we can flex that Zeri into mid lane, maybe look for an Ashe in the bot lane. But that's why I think Karmine Corp as well think of the same thing. They're going to try and take that one away.
Yeah, well, stolen by KC there. SK now have a choice to make. Obviously, you already know your top lane and your jungle matchups. Assuming the Maokai goes jungle, can of course be FLICKR support. Do you want to pick mid here, assuming the Zeri is mid, or do you pick mid? Or I mean, you could do what everyone does now, pick an AD carry and just flex it wherever the hell you please. ADC Kai'Sa logged in for SK.
Rahel's Kai'Sa is very, very clean though, so wouldn't be surprised to see that basically go down into that bottom side, but it does do well regardless of where it is into the Zeri, so I feel like it's just going to be a case of matching, which is nice for SK because you kind of get to figure out what the hell the game plan is since you're on the red side.
Screw it, lads, let's just ban supports. Not sure where these picks are going, so...
Well, so you've got to bear in mind that SK is saving last pick for mid, which means that now the logical thing to do is ban support so that you can first pick a support, right? So with Rakan taking away something that Targamas has leaned on so far in this series, I wonder if we will see the Rahel taken away from the side of Karmine Corp.
Already banned, buddy.
Oh my
I think
goodness.
there is an angle here to potentially use SK ban Ezreal, because you can flex the Ezreal into the mid lane, you can flex the Zeri into the mid lane, but also pairs so well with a lot of the poke that Karmine Corp have already set up. You know, Zeri, not traditionally your poke, but that zap through a wall can do a lot of work as well alongside the other tools that are there, so it could be an option here for Karmine Corp if you want to, and also just upsets look great on the Ezreal pick as well.
It gives you a lot of poke alongside the Jayce if you do go for it. Final ban from KC. If you want to get rid of some engage, you could get rid of Alistar as well. Very powerful frontline tank. Instead, Talia removed, expecting that Kai'Sa to go into the ADC role, as we said. Rahel had some great games on it. Had that one game where he was doing 1,100 damage a minute, I believe was the number. Might have just been 1,000 actually, if I recall correctly, but he is the only one on SK that has played it so far this summer. Leona!
Finally.
Finally! Making her way to the fore.
I think she's just so good. She's just such a strong champion right now. Easy engage, and I think when you see the dive that's starting to come through for SK, it makes a lot of sense as well. The Alistar response, both Renata, I mean, the hovers are both good, I think, from KC. There's a bit of a mind game when it comes to Renata versus Leona because of the E versus the handshake mechanics and how that works, but I think both options make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I just love seeing things like the Nautilus and the Leona paired with the Kai'Sa, because setting up with that ultimate is so easy then for the Kai'Sa to just send herself into the back line, try and look for that assassination attempt. But it looks like on the upside will be, I think, the Alistar good option here to try and dissuade any sort of follow-up engage and try and provide that tank front line. And then it's just a case of a Nisqy going to go towards something like the Corki when you are up against the Lucian in that mid lane. Or is he just going to end up falling back towards the more traditional AP mages to try and keep himself safe?
Interestingly, Alistar can actually interrupt the Kai'Sa ultimate. It is a dash, so if you pulverize while she's in midair, you can stop her from getting on towards your backline. Similar things can happen with the Threshold. But there's the Ezreal that we talked about, so no surprises. 4 AD carries in the game. Once again, should just count our lucky stars. We don't have 6. Could have had a Smolder top or something, or Kindred, you know?
Yeah, there was Varus top a bunch yesterday as well. So.
I do actually wonder if we get to see more Jayce, if Lucian starts to come back as a top laner to the encounter, because that was really strong.
I do remember that, because wasn't that...
that was the Xiaohu meta.
The Xiaohu, that was exactly the player I was thinking of. He was an incredible Lucian top, wasn't he?
How is Kalista top lane these days? That
if you're the Shy, she's great. Also, Adam Solo Q, great.
Okay. But for these two teams, it's do or die now. Winner goes through to face Vedius next Friday in 3 days' time for a spot against G2, for a spot against Fnatic in our summer finals. If SK win this game, Karmine Corp's year is done in the LEC. They will not make it to the season finals. If Karmine Corp win, they still have to beat Vedius to make it to our top 6 and that tournament in about a month's time.
Glad you checked your watch for that.
Yeah. I do it for like effect on camera and then always remember I'm not on camera. I've done it like 5 or 6 times. For some reason, whenever I say a date, I look at my watch. But no one noticed. Until you brought it up, Rob.
No worries, that's what I'm here for.
Thanks for that.
Yep, anytime, bud.
Let's get on to Summer Split.
Game 3, KC versus SK. It's been a long day. These players have got to be feeling the fatigue. The arena, though, still full of energy. Fans excited to see them play. And KC along the line for them. Obviously, this has already been a better split than their whole year. The changes that they made are definitely proving to be effective. And I'm sure that they don't want their run to end here. They want a chance at qualifying for the World Championship. The only way they can do that is by qualifying for the season finals, and the only way they can do that is with a top 3 finish. Getting an upset against SK would be the first of many upsets that they would need to make that goal a reality.
I think also for a team that was incredibly hyped coming into the LEC, SK would like to finish their year on a high after what has been, let's be real, a pretty disappointing year for them with the finishes that they've had. So KC finally feel like they have their footing to try that run, but it starts by defeating SK in this game. And it is going to be no easy task. SK definitely feel like they're going back towards a lot of comfort for them. Relevant on a strong top laner that can be played around if you can play kind of that top side. Luon on something where it can be that main engage tool. It feels very SK-esque.
Yeah, the addition of Rahel and Luon over Exakick and DOS coming into Summer, I think, was looked at as questionable. It was the question of, like, are they just 2 Koreans that we think could be good in the LEC? But over the first few weeks of the split, they really made a name for themselves. And although they've fallen off a little bit so far in playoffs, started to see some glimpses of their former selves in the second game of this series.
Well, I mean, this series, they've just been winning bot lane 2v2s, right?
True, true.
So,
yeah, game 1 was the same.
Yeah, I mean, that bot lane performance has been very solid.
I mean, Rahel's Kai'Sa has been very solid as well. You think back to that one game where he just did not miss a Void Missile. Managed to completely solo carry the game.
So actually, funnily enough, they had a composition very similar to this where I was like, oh yeah, they really want to play like a lot of dive. And like, they never really team fought. Yep. It was just Rahel landing poke after poke after poke.
Jumping in on someone, killing them.
And then I was like, oh, and you know, there's a world where this could be the exact same draft. Ezreal and Kai'Sa just poke you down, you don't get to play, and it's a very sad affair.
I think the one good thing for KC is that not quite Void Missile range or the Arcane Barrage range, True Shot Barrage range, sorry to say. You have a lot of poke yourself. The Jayce, the Culling, even the Zap we're kind of alluding to, you've got a lot that you can work with. So when it comes to those kind of stalemates of trying to set up for objectives, it's not like you just have a very clear winners. And if KC are able to set up for a big Targamas engage or closer finding a pick with that ultimate, it suddenly can be very difficult for SK to operate in that poke style.
We can see Canna getting the push in the top lane, the one winning lane or pushing lane for Karmine Corp so far. Mid seems to be in favor of Nisqy, and Rahel and Luon already managed to shove out that wave bot. Rahel getting his back off, has got a cull for himself. Whereas we have yet to see Upset actually get a recall off, meaning he can just farm underneath that tower for a couple of moments, but as the wave shoves out, Luon can catch it, and Rahel will have no problem being back here in time to get the next wave for himself.
Keep my eyes on the supports as well. Luon did a bit of a cheeky roam towards mid when Rahel went for a base. Nothing really came off the back of it. Targamas looking to do the same thing, but he's now back in lane. Junglers both going back to base after their first clear. It's a slow and quiet early game. Ultimately, this series hasn't been super explosive. In game 1, we did see that bot lane level 2 kill between Rahel and Luon against Upset and Targa. Game 2, we saw that early game gank. But again, game 3, a lot on the line for both these teams. SK wanting to return to the status of top 4 after finishing first at the end of the regular season. I think anything less than a top 3 finish, especially given the performance of BDS recently, I think would be disappointing for SK. But we'll see how things transition as they still have to go through KC, who definitely surprised many. I think coming into playoffs, I did not expect them to have the level of play that they have been bringing, but they have definitely been a positive surprise, that's for sure.
I think a lot of KC fans as well kind of finally feeling that hope of maybe we can do it, maybe we can get to that top 3 and push ourselves towards season finals. But have to try and get control of this early game, and at the moment it does look relatively good. Canna's doing good in this top side. Even saw Closer off his initial clear, moving up here to ensure Canna could get the wave crash, and then he gets that opportunity to try and bully out Irrelevant. Even with this wave, actually could just look for a very quick reset himself and keep that TP advantage, as Irrelevant should have to TP back up to this top end of the map. In response, Isma going to try and start up Dragon, just because he knows Void Grub's probably going to be difficult for SK to receive this game.
Yeah, but we saw this in game 2 as well. Like the really early first Drake before the Void Grubs even spawn. Then you go up towards the Void Grubs and try and get the push up there. Obviously, Irrelevant not able to push out Canna early doors here, so it's going to be a little bit trickier for them to go for those grubs. TP in by Nisqy towards the bot lane here, maybe forcing Targamas closer and upset a little bit further back. You can see Vladi TP towards mid. The engage goes down. Targa with a double knockup, but he's the first to fall. Luon able to escape behind the back of Nisqy. The dragon does reset. Can they aggro it again before it's full HP? They can't, so SK will just get a single kill out of the trade.
I was worried for SK because Vladi actually TP'd back to lane first, but he was forced to catch a wave in mid. You can see that wave slow pushing towards Nisqy. Him rotating down is going to hurt his wave a little bit, but Nisqy cleverly decides to TP to the bot tower to mean that he can actually group up with his team faster. So when they go for the engage, Kai'Sa wasn't expecting the numbers disadvantage to arrive that quickly, and SK find themselves with first blood. The dragon doesn't end up going down, and Closer turns his attention towards the grubs, knowing that Isma's not in a position to contest.
Irrelevant popped his ultimate to guarantee the push on that wave in topside so it could crash and get the bounce back, but it does mean no ult. Oh, maybe steal?
Oh, he gets one!
Oh, nice from Nisqy. Closer leaving that a little bit too low, but I mean, that's going to be, like, you're very happy with that as SK. Getting one out of this situation is huge.
That means that you
for the full grab buff.
Get towards those four. Upset took the time in the bot lane to push in, although he has been able to pick up a single plate. He's still behind.
Yeah, sorry, I just noticed that the wave there was quite awkward for Irrelevant, which is why I thought Luon was basically there to help him push that wave in. Fortunately, Canna hit a few of the minions, which means that it's now going to slow push towards Irrelevant. He's got to be careful about a potential dive. You can see that CS discrepancy really starting to build on the top side of the map. Ultimately, Irrelevant is going to be struggling in this matchup. Canna's doing a good job. There's the rest of the map kind of going ever so slightly in SK's favor. Credits to Upset finding that plate after the skirmish that happened, meaning that he has a very, well, now it's no longer. I was going to say a very minor gold lead, but yeah, it's pretty much even between the two AD carries.
Closer a level down here as Isma walks across towards his red, walks straight past it. No, the thing is, you know it's up as well because you can just look at the mini-map, right? If the icons disappeared, then the red's already been taken. I think he just assumed that Closer would be able to take it before him anyway because he had no smite. Yep, I was getting there, Vedi. It was a roundabout way, but I got there in the end.
No presence in mid lane either. Vladi had already got that push, Canna in top, so it would have been a very difficult take.
X-Flash,
might catch Closer.
Closer still has the flash hit. Hits level 6. Glacial Prison leveled up, but not enough to buy him some time to get away from Luon. Isma takes the kill with a Nature's Grasp. Irrelevant knocked back here as he sliced and diced forward. Ruthless Predator for the stun. Canna low on mana, does still have a flash of his own if he needs to escape this situation, and I think he does. Flashes under the safety of the tower.
Canna's knockback end up putting Irrelevant between him and the turret, so Irrelevant's just able to continue to chase him down, but it also means as he gets underneath his turret, that cooldown just isn't there. So nice job by Irrelevant finding a moment where he can get that little bit of pressure and can get some more CS back in his favor.
It's really bad for Canna as well because he doesn't have TP. He's going to start running back towards the wave. Probably going to lose this cannon. Not going to lose too much more out of this wave if you can get there quickly enough, but still only sitting at tier 1 boots, so it's at least a plate, a cannon, and maybe another minion on top.
It's the fact that Irrelevant would get a nice reset time.
Yeah.
It's so difficult to get it in these matchups, and he'll be able to get back into that top side before he really loses out on anything. So again, nicely orchestrated by Irrelevant. This has kind of been where Irrelevant has been very strong, just finding these moments in the top lane 1v1s to put pressure on the enemy and get not quite an advantage for himself, but certainly close the gap between himself and Canna here.
I mean, we saw a similar thing yesterday between Oscar and BB where Oscar was able to find a kill onto BB in the exact same matchup, right? And it's clear that there's a window in this matchup where Renekton can punish the Jayce, and Irrelevant was able to exploit that. Of course, the downside is that plate secured for Canna. So even though he does end up getting forced back, he still has a very healthy lead. But the rest of the map going ever so slightly the way of SK. Some vision being dropped from Luon as he enters Casey's bot side of the jungle. Dragon 2.5 minutes, grubs in 1 minute's time. Let's see what Rahel does on the map. He's going to look to reset, maybe just walk up towards mid. Is he interested in trying to leverage numbers to contest that objective? Because again, 3 grubs, well, 2 for KC, 3 for SK would be a nice buff to have.
Yeah, especially with Canna winning out that top side so hard, if you can get him the mites as well, should be able to take that tower in short order. Luon opening up through the top side. See if Canna oversteps. He's on the weak side of the map right now, but Targamas has found a way around Rahel. Does still have the flash, will use it immediately. Smart play from him, but good play from Targamas to find that flank position.
On the upside though, Luon is opened up to go for Canna, and Isma's here closer to cover.
I think Irrelevant just wants to back away from this one. Pops the Domina, still tanking the tower, even with the True Shot Barrage. Canna falls. Irrelevant able to slice his way out. It was a dicey situation for him, but SK get out scot-free.
Vladi here as well, though, so SK going to just be happy to try and get some pressure back, but nicely done by SK again, just using these little windows of opportunity to punish Canna, get on towards the Void Grubs, and with Nisqy having stolen one of them earlier on, this could be 4 Void Grubs, but KC want to turn that around. A lot of members collecting on this top side.
Upset's already moved up from the bot lane after shoving out that wave, so Isma, after he sees Upset in mid, he's like, I can't fight for this. It looks like Karmine Corp are actually going to get all 3 grubs out of the play. SK invested a lot into killing Canna, and because they had blinking health bars, because they weren't quite set up properly, Karmine Corp actually are the ones that come out on top in terms of neutrals.
Yeah, I thought Irrelevant's TP would be up just in time to maybe try and come back into this, but it's just slightly off cooldown, so KC should be able to get all of these. They are shifting Rahel up now, but we'll get the replay here.
I mean, we look back at the dive, and Irrelevant draws aggro, largely thanks to... Oh, he connects the stun and the ulti. The ulti from Sejuani locks him out underneath the tower, but it's not quite enough damage to trade the kill back. Meanwhile, SK, between Luon and Isma, they're able to find that nice kill. So, plate goes over as well to SK. It's funny how in this situation, they couldn't actually secure the grubs, because typically the idea is, oh, we have a numbers advantage, but it's, as you say, Medic, it was just a health difference, right? So many members of SK needed to replenish their mana, they weren't quite healthy enough, and so SK, even a man down, knew that in the extended fight, they'd still be able to win. So objective secured for them, that's 5 grubs to 1, the buff is theirs, but SK is first to the dragon.
I think if Luon had leached one more minion from mid-wave, he would have hit 6 for a fight that might be about to materialize. I mean, they might give it to him.
Oh,
no,
that's
I actually think they were meaning to give it to him, with Isma
yes.
getting that at the end, puts the thumbs up down. Luon now needs to soak this wave. Targamas won't hit 6 off these 6 minions that stand before him, so after SK get the 6 on their support, much more likely to play around this Drake.
Oh, there's the level 6 actually for Targamas.
Oh, does get it off the 6, okay.
SK.
I thought with 4 players being there, he'd get a little bit less shared XP.
Both top laners do have TP, but it looks like, okay, smartly from KC, they choose to abandon it. It's fine. They instead focus their attention towards the top tower. Plates are still available. A minute left on those, and they're also top camps that they can take away, so I like the approach from KC. There's little that SK can do to punish. They'll send Vladi down to go and catch the bot wave. And SK have to just focus on catching waves as KC turn their attention to top tower.
Yeah, Relevant going to burn everything to just try and clear out the wave, but there's so many people here from KC.
Targamas goes in, has that Unbreakable Will. Irrelevant still has the Ruthless Predator stun, but he hasn't had a chance to use it. Karmine Corp execute the dive and execute the croc.
Nice bit of revenge there for KC. After losing Canna in the top lane dive, they're able to take down Irrelevant. This tower is likely to fall as well. The, of course, trade for that will be Nisqy securing this bot tower, albeit slower than what we're seeing on the top side of the map. But TP, is this risky?
Nature's Grasp. Isma looks for the dive immediately. Canna goes in. Twisted Advance going forward as well. Isma tanking for days, but not for long enough. One more shot would have killed him. Canna able to survive. Still has his flash as well.
So I think the idea here was Canna can TP into bot, then quickly use those 5 Void Grubs and Irrelevant not being up to try and get that bot tower as the turret plates were falling. But now Canna has to reset because there's the TP. Okay. But there's multiple members of KC here, so Irrelevant might still need to be careful. Yeah. They'll just back away.
I thought Karmine Corp were going to collapse on that, I'll be honest. I saw the Irrelevant TP and was like, well, closes there. Obviously, they don't have the ultimates. They used them up in the last fight, but with Rift held up, perhaps that's more of a focus in terms of objectives. For the moment, though, honor's even between these two teams, really. You can say, you know, 2 Drakes to none, 5 grubs to 1, 3 kills to 1, but there's only 400, 500 gold in it. It's probably the closest early game we've had between these two teams so far.
Very much kind of what you would expect at a game 3. Game 1, KC was able to find a huge fight against SK to secure that win. Game 2 was a one-sided SK dominance. This time round, though, constant trade back and forth with objectives. Both teams with strong tools. Nice trade there from Upset. Oh, but Rahel able to press the attack to get a bit of a trade back himself. Static Shiv's doing some work here in the mid lane as both AD carries ironically chunk each other down without actually hitting each other. The Herald gets secured by Isma.
Hey, just see KC trading towers on the opposite side of the map, but with Rift Herald in tow, bit of a win for SK. Would love to try and use that in mid lane, especially when the Dragon comes up in 2.5 minute time, so just try and put some pressure onto KC on the map. Nisqy? I wasn't sure how aggressive you wanted to go onto Canna there, but yeah, I think from the position that you're in, SK, at least if they can use this Rift Herald effectively, should be good, because they push in mid, now to collapse on Vladi on bot lane.
Vladi hits 11, flashes away. The Ruthless Predator stun was waiting from Irrelevant, but unable to get into range to do it before that summoner expended by the Karmine Corp mid laner.
And Vladi does have to be careful in these fights, because traditionally when we see the Lucian, like, he can take a cleanse, he can take a valuable summoner spell like that, but in the mid lane, he's opted into the teleport, and if you get into close range against a lot of SK, you are in the danger zone, and already feeling that hurt as he has to burn his flash. Might get caught again!
Nisqy has to flash away, the solar flare going immediately onto Vladi. Nisqy gets the kill. Luon not back though, and he's going to be sacrificed underneath this tower. Canna coming in from the side. Nisqy has no way out of this, nor does Isma. 2 more kills over to Karmine Corp.
There's no way for Irrelevant to join the fight. It's a 4 versus 4, and Kai'Sa on the re-engage. Hand a triple kill over to Upset, putting him in a prime position to be the carry for Kai'Sa once more.
And they get to answer with this mid lane turn, which is huge. Rahel still needs to be careful, because Kai'Sa could try and take off a little bit more, but he will be able to keep them back. The Static Shiv at least helping to clear out that wave, but you called it, Betty. Irrelevant just not being in that fight was crucial, despite the fact Vladi went down early.
We think back, and it's SK that initiate the fight, and they're able to find a good start to it, but then Luon gets knocked underneath the tower by Targamas, and at that point you're thinking, oh, it's a 1-for-1, but then when Canna finally arrives, another great shock blast from him means that there's not a huge amount that SK can do. So we see Upset on the flank, he's kind of sitting on the back line, and he's just consistently dealing damage.
Yeah, just managing to get that ult off onto Luon as well means that he gets all those passive stats, the speed up, and he's been able to move forward. Canna off on the side as well with the to the skies, gets the slow onto multiple members there to set up for him, which is great. And now to come out of this replay straight into Dragon. So we're going to have to see if we can rinse and repeat here with no flash on towards Vladi for this one.
Upset's ultimate up in 3 seconds time. SK have got the first 2 Drakes of the game, the gold basically even, 200 in it. Runans and Static Shiv complete for Upset though, and if he's left in a team fight unscathed, untouched, he will have an absolute field day.
No Warmogs completed for anyone just yet, so Pope's going to stick
the engage immediately. Isma falls low, able to survive with the twisted advance forward, but there he's down. Closer goes down in response. Luon the next to fall. It's a double so far for Upset. The dive in though by Irrelevant is beautiful. Ruthless Predator with the stun. But now Vladi, the second AD carry. Why not have 2? And Vladi gets 2 to boot. It's 4-2 in favor of Karmine Corp.
It's a double tap for a double kill from Vladi. Absolutely settles the score for KC. Finishing off multiple low members of SK and now securing Dragon for them as well.
It was such a close fight until it wasn't. We look at the start and it's KC to initiate the engage. They focus on the front line. This Maokai looks like he's going to drop instantly, but he's able to buy a little bit more time. Then Irrelevant, he's going to turn his attention onto Upset. Look at Upset as he tries to clean up the fight. The quick flash, the W comes in. He's doing a lot of damage, but here he's now out of juice. He's got nothing left. Nisqy then falls. The HP bars aren't high enough. And Canna and Vladi with nice setup from Targamas is able to win out on the fight. Relief from the coaching staff as they deny Soul Point. And KC put themselves in a winning position.
And Rahel just wasn't in the same position to try and go forward because Irrelevant was trying to escape. He had just no front line. So Vladi able to try and utilize a significantly stronger front line in that one to finish things out. And KC now, firm control. Baron spawning in 40 seconds. Both teams, obviously with the double AD carries, can do it particularly fast, but I think it's trying to get control over this area is going to be very difficult, because if you're ever in the pit with like a Maokai ult, Leona ult, even on the opposite side, Targamas being able to get big combos, it's going to be tough for either team to wrangle that worm into their side.
I think SK's double AD carries have a large amount of poke. Consistent poke, it can be very powerful, but if you are going to give me a full 5-5 team fight from everyone at full HP, I take the team with Zeri every single time. Like, she's just so powerful. It's not like you have a super hyper carry on the other side. Ezreal and Kai'Sa can put out a lot of damage in a team fight, but if Upset gets a lightning crash down and starts stacking up, he is unstoppable.
But it's also just Zeri's so accelerated.
Yeah.
5 kills already picked up. She's moving up towards that third item. It's going to be that Immortal Shield Bow, making Upset even harder to kill. LDR going to follow through next. So you're in a spot where you're going to be so incredibly strong. And even looking at Isma's build here, he's not going for the Warmogs immediately, instead working up towards that Randuin's Omen, so you're not going to have the same kind of Warmog, so any of the poke that we start to see coming through from KC is going to land and stick, versus where you look across KC where you're, oh well, I think it's like, yeah, I was going to, no, that's not a Warmog's build either, so never mind. I was going to say Closer was going to finish off his.
No, that's Warmogs. Yeah, that's Warmogs, mate. Winged Moonplate, Giant's Belt, and then
right.
what am I? The one with Rejuvenation, Crystalline Base,
yeah.
That's the last one, yeah. But enough about Warmogs. We see it every game. You know what we don't see every game? Karmine Corp making top 3. They haven't done it once this year, and if they're going to make it to the season finals, if they're going to have a shot at playing in Munich at the end of the LEC calendar, they need to make it to top 3. Currently fighting for 4th. And then if they manage to win this game, they'll play up against BDS. If they win that, they will knock Giant X out of season finals contention and take that spot for their own. And what a story it would be for the team entering the league, going 10th, really struggling, and then finally turning things back around, building that blue wall brick by brick. Of course, walls can come tumbling down. Humpty Dumpty had a fall off one once, and we've never heard the end of it. As Canna trades with Irrelevant, Rahel jumps in, and Canna's overextended. Rahel finds him. The power of the killer instinct from SK.
Really nice punish from SK. These type of picks are really valuable for them, especially because they alleviate some of the side lane pressure that Canna was able to exert on the Jayce. KC, they found a good fight, but they can't be overconfident. You've got to bear in mind that the gold is very even. You look between the AD carries, and now Rahel actually has a small lead in terms of the individual matchup. Itemization, they are very even. And these AD carries will be the determining factor in the outcome of this game, as the gold largely stays very close. And it only continues to build the tension as we get closer to our 4th dragon of the game.
And this is where Rahel has kind of hit critical mass. Having that Nashor's Tooth in his inventory as well means he gets the upgraded W, so he's going to be able to look for poke like this. If he lands the second one here as well, Vladi going to know all about it. So for KC, you have to kind of find this quick moment to take these fights before Rahel just continues to poke you down.
Here comes the poke. Ultimate from Nisqy going to go wide, but that is going to connect on the Targamas.
3 for 3.
I feel like we've seen this before.
I'm always surprised when I watch Rahel on Kai'Sa that Vanguard doesn't pop up in the middle of the game. Everyone's Steam, I'm pretty sure
he's literally just hit the last 4 in a row.
Yeah, it's actually gross, because a lot of them are off vision as well. Like, you see Closer walk into this bush, but you don't know exactly where he is. Nisqy showing us that you can miss skill shots on someone who's in the fog of war. As Closer doesn't quite have that Warmogs yet, so doesn't have the regeneration outside of combat that he would like. Another one hits.
That's 5.
From Rahel.
Good vision set up for SK here as Dragon
6.
spawns. You can see wards in the back of Dragon Pit to spot out if Canna was trying to get any sort of flank, but we're going.
Glacier isn't going out. Isma goes back in with an Nature's Grass, gets the Ruton's Closer. Reset happens for both the teams, neither one finding the engage they were looking for. Shot Blast goes wide.
Closer though. The ultimate connects onto upsets. Closer wants to get a base off as quickly as he can. Nisqy's just being a bit of a pain. They're sending Rahel to go and solo the dragon.
KC's engage is still more threatening though. Targamas with the flash combo and still having his ult up means that it's a little bit stronger than Luon, just hoping for a Zenith blade. So still, you have to be careful here as SK continue to just look for the poke, and that's all they're doing, just keeping people interested on this top side as Rahel is able to solo out the dragon.
That's soul point for SK as well. An Ocean Soul, when you have this much poke, can be pretty good, especially if you can find a way to disengage the fight. It becomes much more reliant on KC making their damage stick.
The tension continues to mount. We approach 25 minutes into the game. Soul point now for SK, and Baron becomes an objective that both teams need to be very cautious about, as Baron can die very fast, and it's KC who have control in terms of vision. The side lanes being addressed by Irrelevant and Canna as they go to push out bot. Irrelevant though doesn't want to overstep. Kind of return to that neutral game state.
The biggest problem for SK is that everywhere is vulnerable for them as you try to push out waves. Like, even if you leave Nisqy in this top side, if Closer shows up or Targamas shows up, it's very easy to try and lock him down. So you're kind of leaving him in the mid lane and hoping that the shorter lane here will keep him safe, whereas you're investing in Rahel, pushing in the side lane with the rest of the team. Now he can start to drift across, but he does have to be a little careful with how aggressive he goes here.
Nisqy going forward, Glacial Prism finds him in the column. puts him in the dirt. Isma with the Nature's Grasp buys himself a second. Irrelevant TP'd in here. Will be spotted. He's on a control ward.
Huge mistake. I can't believe he would ever consider face checking that. There's no need for him to go anywhere near that brush. Kai'Sa now going to finally secure this tower. I wonder if they'll threaten the Baron. They got the TP out from Irrelevant as well. All things looking up for Kai'Sa.
They'll keep the pressure, but I think they're more looking to link up with Canna in this bottom side. You see he's already prepped the wave, but not entirely sure.
It looks like they're just going to take away as much of the jungle as possible.
Exactly. Just suffocate SK out, deny them as much farm as they can.
I do think that might have been a moment where they could have, with 5 Void Grubs and as many AD carries as they have, I think that could have been the bot tier 2 gone, but still, stealing away a lot of these camps from SK is definitely going to help to minimize the impact that Isma is as he starts to move on forward here.
There's always the threat of Nisqy TPing into a ward that you haven't cleared out because you're moving so quickly between the lanes as well. I agree with you, though.
Are you worried about the Ezreal flank?
I'm worried about any flank in a game like this because it's the end of your year if you make it the wrong call, right? It's the end of the year if you make a mistake. So I don't blame them for being a little bit apprehensive, a little bit trepidatious, as Vedi would like to say.
Great word.
It is. Well, you use it often enough, so.
Yeah. One day I'm going to find out that I've been using it incorrectly.
I had that with Litany, I think. So I don't use it anymore.
Beneficiary and benefactor.
Yeah, well, please don't get us on that one.
Right, on mid though, look at closer.
Goes in, only hits Isma, but Isma bursts down, even with the twisted advance, he's still already down. The stun landing on Irrelevant as well as Rahel has to kill him instinct across the fight. Karmine Corp already found 2, it's 3! The AD carries remain standing, but what can they do without their front line? SK, can they fight back?
That is a massive team fight win for Kai'Sa. Their target is the front line, and they just melt Isma. Immediately, SK is forced to play defensively, and it costs them 3. The Baron will be secured for Kai'Sa, and they take firm control over Game 3.
There's nothing that SK could do. Isma gets caught, and you already said it, they just melt. We'll see it here. The engage coming through from closer, nicely set up here, swinging on through, and the poke from Upset and Canna manages to just connect on towards Isma. They immediately burst them out, and they're trying to set up this front to back, but Nisqy and Rahel just not really in a position to deal the damage. Again, zoned away, and it's Irrelevant who's just caught in the massive KC players there.
The tankiness of the Karmine Corp front line just outmatching anything that SK can deliver. It's Ranju in second for Isma as well. Doesn't have that Warmogs yet, but there's only really physical damage on the side of Karmine Corp. I think there's a little bit of mix from the Zeri, but it's predominantly armor that you want to be stacking. SK now in a hole. 4,000 gold, the lead for Karmine Corp. The Baron remains for 2 minutes, circling around their feet.
And now, in a position to continue this push onto the bottom side of the map. They could try and spread it out, but when you've already see at the moment SK trying to deal with that mid wave, they're just going to completely barrel down through this bottom side. Irrelevant moving to deal with that mid lane push, but leaves a numbers advantage for Kai'Sa on this bottom side. Maybe a little nervous of Irrelevant finding that flank opportunity, so they're going to back away, just happy that they got that outer turret.
I think they're also just overstacking in bot lane. They needed to grab mid too, so while they did secure a tower, it was always going to be harder to siege onto that next one. Canna now being sent to go catch this wave. Irrelevant doing a good job of finding that window and alleviating some of the pressure.
TP up to the top side as well by Nisqy to push out that wave, making sure there is few open opportunities for Karmine Corp as possible to get towards the tier 2s with this Baron buff. The Drake secured, it's the second of the game for Kai'Sa, and a minute remains on the Baron. They've made a net 300 gold from it because of course you get 1.5k just for taking the buff itself, but they get a Drake and they get control of the game.
What a story this would be for KC, though, if they can actually take down SK here. Going from 10th and 10th into pushing into top 4, 1 series potentially away from reaching our season finals. It starts with trying to push SK back. We still need to try and close this out cleanly. Canna, he's going to push in top wave, so the tier 2 is what KC are setting their sights on. And you can see this 5-man group is just like, we know we beat SK in a full-on 5v5, so we're just never going to give you the opportunity to find us separated.
Glacial Prison going out, Irrelevant looking for that flank position. Canna a long way back. Solar Flare. Oza caught up in the Nature's Grasp, but nothing really connecting from SK. You have to remember the changes Karmine Corp made coming into Summer as well. Canna, Closer, Vladi all joining the team now. They're the ones helping carry them perhaps to top 4. Targamas down to about a third HP. A Shock Blast hits 4. And everyone falls down to half HP.
Tower's going to drop. SK don't have the resources just in time for the Baron to disappear as well. KC, in an ideal world, they would have been able to break the base, but the wave clear from SK was enough to hold them back. I will say that KC have mainly been overstacking, which, in terms of their siege, not ideal. I think they really should be moving Canna off onto a side lane and then have him push and then regroup with his team. Regardless, they get 2 towers. It's likely that we're going to be playing for another Baron. 4 items now being completed for AD carries. 5th in the works for upset. He's in an incredibly strong position. And really the gold advantage is gained for KC means that they're about half an item to an item ahead of their counterparts. And this is going to be crucial for the upcoming fight. But gold will mean less and less as we go later into the game, as more builds become complete and it all comes down to execution. 2 minutes 50 seconds until the Ocean Dragon. Soul potentially for SK. Would that be enough to turn the game? Potentially. But right now it's KC who are controlling the narrative of this game. Flash in.
Oza looking for Nisqy, who flashes away himself. The culling's still there, and Targamas with a 3-man knock-up. Nisqy low. Immediately, though, Karmine Corp being re-engaged on Targamas, falling lower and lower. Upset on the backline. Rahel going for him. Rahel will fall. 4v3 now, as Nisqy has to be the one to do it all. Irrelevant manages to find one. It's 3v2. Vladi dashing away from the Renekton. Closer there on the front line still. Nisqy trying to get in from the side, but Karmine Corp have found 4. Nisqy jump forward. Nisqy jumps to his death. Karmine Corp bury him with the rest of their team, and they can see the match next week against BDS in their sights.
Rahel couldn't do it. Irrelevant couldn't do it. Nisqy could not do it. But now the question rises, can Karmine Corp do it? How high can this team rise?
Can Luon delay them long enough? 8 seconds on Isma. The first Nexus tower has fallen. The second will follow shortly after. And the blue wall is growing ever taller. Les Bleus, Karmine Corp are going to play BDS next week.
Karmine Corp will secure top 4 in LEC Summer. A monumental win for them. A massive upset against SK. They will have an opportunity to go against BDS next week. And if they do, they will secure top 3 and secure a spot in season finals. Their destiny is still within their own hands. KC with a massive win in summer.
What an absolute story. Well, but vote for your key player of the series at LEC on X. It is Canna, Vladi, or Upset. I don't even know who to vote for. This was a heroic performance across the board from Karmine Corp. What a step up from these guys coming into playoffs. It feels like every single game, well, they are fighting for their lives, but they're doing it in style.
Yeah, so many players, like big shout out to Closure as well. 2, 2, and 15, 100% kill participation in that third game.
Putting my hand up for Targamas as well.
Yeah.
0, 2, and 17.
I mean, their initiations were flawless in a lot of those fights, right? And in game 2, they did get absolutely crushed from start to finish. In game 1, it was a messy affair, admittedly, but game 3, they had control. They were trading objectives well. They were playing fights better than their opposition. And SK, they fumbled at the finish line. Now, they will still have a chance in the season finals. Thanks to BDS winning their series, they have been able to qualify. But KC, all they need is one more win, a best of 5 against BDS.
Who will look beatable.
Exactly.
They definitely look beatable.
They don't look strong. I mean, KC, if they continue performances like this, they could take BDS and find themselves taking that final spot.
If they win that, they will be top 3, and
then
they will
could beat G2, and then they could beat Fnatic. You know that you are here, where people were like 0-9,
I mean, it's true. I mean, the KC fans should be excited about that.
You are here. Beat Fnatic, you are here.
The miracle run
in World's Finals in London, you are here.
And I think it's really important to emphasize how for KC, even going into the matchup against Mad, expectations were against them, right? Expectations were against them against KC, and I'm sure that the doubters are going to exist against BDS. but the reality is that it is within their hands and they're in a great position to still aim for that dream of qualifying for World.
I think it's unfair looking at these players not to reevaluate your expectations of KC. They have been very clean, their early game strong, their team fighting fantastic, and as we say, with BDS struggling, it feels like KC honestly are probably favourites going into that game with the way that people have been playing. So
I think off recent performances, Karmine Corp should be favoured next week.
Definitely should be.
It's a difficult one to predict, though. I can see... Oh, Drakos is standing behind us, waving at us right now, standing by with Closer. I believe we're ready for our Marriott Bonvoy post-game check-in. Drakos, take it away.
Thank you very much, Medic. I am here for the Marriott Bonvoy post-game check-in with Closer. I am blown away by you and your team. Shout out to the fans here in the studio that have been here all day.
Yeah.
I want to start by talking a little bit about that Game 3, because Game 2 was super one-sided. What were the adaptations that you guys made coming into Game 3 to make sure that you had a better shot at taking this and ultimately winning the series?
Yeah, I think I even said in the Game 2, like, don't take this game too seriously. We knew that the game was like mega lost, so we focused on not getting like too emotional and focusing on the next game. Even Game 1, I don't think we played good, but we won the game, so we were still confident that we can win the series for sure.
I like that level of casual confidence. Are you starting to feel the pressure now as we get closer and closer to top 3? Because I feel like at the start it felt like a dream, it felt very distant, but you keep winning. You're one best of 5 away from making season finals. Is that starting to count in the back of your head? Is that something you're starting to feel?
I mean, the pressure doesn't really get to me because I'm pretty sure everyone will keep thinking we will lose the next one. So, I mean, I think we still didn't show how good we are. Like, we are winning these games, but I think we have so much more in us. And I think we will beat BDS, and we will see after that.
When we talk about BDS as an upcoming opponent, I know you were probably very focused on this series today. I'm not sure how much of the previous series you got to watch, but is there any special avenue of attack? Is there anything that you think that you guys are doing better than them right now that will allow you to come out on top in that matchup?
To be honest, like we watched their games against Mad Lions and their game against, who did they play today? Giants.
Yep.
Like, I don't think they're good. We are coming for you.
For someone who you're counting yourself as the underdog, you think people are going to underestimate you. I still like that you're coming forward with so much confidence, and confidence that's well placed. You are our key player of the series. Oh. How do you look back on your performance today? How do you feel about how you played individually?
I don't think I played that good, but I think it was like mid.
Canna. Sorry, I said Canna.
Oh my, I'm robbed.
I'm so sorry. I didn't try to troll you. I'm glad you guys laughed. That made me feel about it. I just couldn't read. So.
I think I played pretty mid. And
the fans agreed. I'm sorry.
Just some Sejuani why our game was disgusting, but we can blame the draft for that one. But other than that, I was okay.
Yeah. How do you feel about your Jayce top laner? The Ornn maybe not so hot, but the Jayce games look pretty all right. How you feeling about Canna?
I think we had a pretty good plan on the draft, and that comes from Canna being able to play Jayce very good. So I'm glad he performed well, and we won the series, Feels good.
Ultimately got the win. Sorry for trolling you there very briefly. Congrats again, Canna. Congrats to you and the team. I cannot wait to see what you guys can do against BDS coming up next week. For now, I hope you guys can get a little bit of rest. I know it's right around the corner. We're going to send things over to PGL with Upset. Take it away.